what should we expect for the last few months of this year?
I think we're going to see a longer market time. Sure. That's going to be like inevitable. I mean, which is totally normal even in this time of year, every year prior. I think we're going to still see interest rates jump up. I think we're going to see the Fed is talking today. I mean, today is Wednesday, September 21st. Earmark that. But as of today, the Fed's talking at 2 o'clock. They're going to talk about potentially doing another 75-point basis or maybe even 100-point basis. And then they may still even do a couple more after that.
But important to note, that doesn't necessarily tie hand in hand with interest rates going up.
Yeah. It's a financial thing.
It's a conversation that's ongoing.
Yeah, exactly.
And our crystal ball is a little foggy.
Yep. And the markets move on a daily basis. So, I mean, it's never strictly tied in, but typically what we see is it does kind of follow that entity. Sure. And so, yes, they're going to see a little bit of that increase. I think we're going to... It's interesting. We've been talking about.
Have you noticed one thing that I've really noticed is that I feel like our buyer pool is more tentative right now. Partly because it's on the media,
yeah.
But it's like before, it's like everybody was rushing to write offers. They were rushing to follow the momentum. Now I feel like they're excited by properties. They like them and they check all the boxes, but they're just a little slower to react. Let's give it some time. I'm okay to lose it. Before people were fearful to lose things, and now they're okay to lose things.
But we've seen these buyers before. It's always interesting.
About a year ago, I think.
Well, yeah, last fall we had that as well, but even prior to the pandemic, I mean, because now that we're normalizing, I don't know how we always categorize in the pandemic. I mean, the president just said we're out of it, so I don't know if we take that as a grain of salt or not, but literally, I mean, prior to this, you see a really good run, and then the buyers who were in it, they make those quick decisions. Yep. And then all of a sudden you see it start to peak or have a little bit of a slowdown, and then those tentative buyers get in last because they were like, oh my God, I was fearful then, and now I'm finally getting that momentum to be like, all right, should I do it? But they're still a little fearful.
Sure,
I mean, there are a lot of headlines that are going out that kind of push into that.
It's part of the reason why we're here today.
But we hopefully educate, we kind of talk through it. I mean, the good thing is we're normalizing.
The other thing that I think I'm kind of thinking that we're going to see a little bit more, right? Because we saw such a slowdown at the end of last year, and then the market got so crazy in the beginning of 2022. One of the things that I really think that we're going to start to see, which I think it's important for consumers to know, is our pocket listings. Our listings that start to become available, but they're not available to the public. Yeah. So you and I can dive in and find it. And even we've got sellers that are thinking about it hey, the market got kind of sluggish. This isn't, I can't, this time of year doesn't make sense for me.
It's testing.
But if somebody's willing to do something, you know what, I'm happy to have that conversation. So our pocket listing sites, our off-market inventory, I think it's going to get pretty, not full, that's a relative statement, and as we've already talked, inventory is not going to be huge. No. But I think we're going to definitely see an uptick of that, of homes that you and I can get access to, that the consumers won't be able to see from that perspective. So I think that those that are kind of thinking oh my God, there's no houses on the market, I'm going to wait until next year.
It's under the radar.
It's under the radar.
It's literally under the radar. They're ready to pop, but they're not there yet. I mean, we're still. We also have houses that we're taking photos of this year because it's still beautiful out, and they're not going to list till next year, probably in the winter, which we're just preparing them for the market.
For certain.
Is it a good time to buy or sell?
Based on what?
Oh, yeah.
No, I'm kidding.
I mean, again, and yeah.
I'm kidding. But that's the point. Right, wrong, or indifferent, every market that ever exists, we're just talking about Chicago right now, 2022. Mm-hmm. Downtown urban neighborhoods.
The north side.
The north side. The west side comes in there too, and a little itty bitty bit of the south side. From that perspective, there's always somebody that's going to succeed in that market, and there's somebody that could probably fail in that market. So it's really hard to talk to a vast generalization. It's about understanding. You and I know, one of the things, most real estate advisors do a large majority of their business in the first half of the year, right? If you actually track people.
A lot.
We as a team really really have a successful second half of the year. But that's I think a lot of the strategies that we put forth. Like, for example, we had a lot of clients come to us in January and say, I want to sell my condo and I want to buy a house. How do I do this? What's the best way for me to do this? You know, I'm looking at the next year, I don't have a real timeline. Well, for a lot of those people, what we said was, okay, let's be smart about this, right? The market, we're getting nuts out there.
Yeah.
And our thought process is based on your needs, your timeline, and what you're trying to succeed. People that are buying and selling, for example, are very insulated from the market. What's happening on one end of their equation often is happening on the other end of their equation.
Yeah.
Right? So it's one of those things that we're like, okay, you may not sell your condo for an absolute premium, but you're going to buy a more expensive home for less of a premium. So you're actually doing better waiting for the market to normalize a little bit. You know, so we have a lot of clients right now that are just starting to kick back into the market to say, hey, I waited for this time.
Yeah.
This is what makes sense to me. Or clients, first-time buyers that have saying...
The first-time home buyers, I think, are like the big ones right now, because they're not the ones who are like, I'm going to buy low and sell low, or sell low and buy low. They're like, this is my first time getting in. Is it a perfect time for them to purchase at this point?
I think for a lot of them, it really makes sense, right? The market gives them a chance to breathe, to digest, to educate. Now we're in a time where we can kind of go back and doing what we love about it, especially with first-time buyers, of educating, processing, thinking things through from that perspective. So this is a time that a lot of our clients, we maybe even tabled their searches to say, guys, let's take a step back. There's no reason for us to partake in this. Let's take a step back and let's wait for this time. So yes, I think the answer is that it's very specific based on what somebody's trying to accomplish. That's one of the things that we as a team really try and do. I mean, there's a reason we consider ourselves advisors and that we like to have strategy in what we do, is that we really want to hear what our clients are trying to accomplish, and we want to set up a plan that takes the market into place, takes their needs into place, takes their timeline into place, and then put together what we accomplish at the end of the day for certain. So is it a good time to buy or sell? For some people, absolutely.
Talk to us.
For some people, not a chance.
Yeah.
No, you know, it totally depends on what their needs are, and we're happy to talk to people about their individual circumstances off videotape on that call.